The night of April 3rd, 2024, hung over Dayton, Ohio like a thick, unspoken secret. The streets were silent, the kind of silence that makes you feel as though even the wind is holding its breath. But inside one small home on Torrington Place, that stillness was about to shatter, replaced by the sound of terror, heartbreak, and gunfire. In that home lived 26-year-old Montanae Davis. 26 LeMake Davis, a young nurse whose life was a beacon of warmth and compassion. By day, she healed the sick, comforted the weary, and poured love into her two beautiful children. But as darkness fell, she found herself in a nightmare no one could have prepared her for. Just moments before tragedy struck, Montanae Davis, 26's trembling voice reached the 911 dispatcher, her final plea for help. "He's outside. He's threatening to hurt me and my kids," she whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of fear. The dispatcher urged her to stay calm, to stay on the line. But then came a sound that froze the blood of everyone listening. A sudden crack, then another, and then silence. When officers arrived at the scene, the horror waiting for them could not be undone. The woman who had spent her life saving others had been gunned down, in the very home where she had once taught her children to laugh. The cruel irony of it all, she had survived heartbreak, rebuilt her life, and found love again, only for the past she escaped to return with a vengeance in its eyes. Her killer was no stranger in the shadows, no masked intruder. He was someone she once trusted, someone who had sworn to love her. His jealousy burned hotter than reason, and in one violent outburst, he ended the life of the woman who had already chosen peace over pain. Police flooded the quiet neighborhood, lights flashing like shattered stars against the night. The sound of sirens replaced her screams, and within hours, detectives were piecing together a story that would send ripples of grief and outrage through the city. A young mother was gone, a family was broken, and a community was left asking the question no one ever wants to ask. How could love turn into something so deadly? This is her story. The clock had barely struck 2 a.m. when a trembling voice pierced through the static of a 911 call. "He's outside. He's threatening to hurt me and my kids. Please hurry." The dispatcher's calm tone tried to mask the panic rising on the other end. And then, silence. A silence so heavy, it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. In the early hours of April 3rd, 2024, Montanae Davis, 26, LeMake Davis, a young mother and nurse from Dayton, Ohio, was fighting for her life and the lives of her children against a nightmare she thought she had already escaped. Moments later, her name would become another haunting entry in the growing list of women lost to domestic violence. To those who knew her, Montanae Davis, 26, wasn't just another headline. She was sunshine in human form. Born on September 26, 1997, she had grown up in a close-knit community that believed in family, faith, and love. Her laugh was the kind that made others forget their pain. Her smile, a small act of healing on its own. At Thurgood Marshall High School, she excelled in both her studies and spirit. Later, she pursued nursing at Wright State University, determined to turn her compassion into a career. Her hands, gentle yet strong, cared for the sick and the suffering. Her patients often said she didn't just treat wounds, she mended souls. And when she wasn't wearing her scrubs, she was a devoted mother of two. Her mornings began before the sun, filled with the clinking of cereal bowls and the sound of laughter echoing through a small but love-filled apartment. Her children were her world, her anchor, her reason to fight through life's storms.
But not all storms come from the sky. Some arrive wearing a familiar smile. Montanae Davis, 26, once believed she had found love with a man who promised her forever. But forever turned out to be a cage. His name was Jamertai Brown, a man whose charm melted quickly into rage. What began with sweet words and tender promises soon transformed into jealousy, control, and bruised emotions. The warmth she once felt became the fire she had to escape. With courage only a mother could know, she walked away. She chose peace over pain, healing over heartbreak. For the first time in years, she could breathe. Montanae Davis, 26's heart, though scarred, learned to trust again. She met someone new, someone who loved her without breaking her spirit. Together, they built a quiet joy, a home filled with laughter and hope. When she discovered she was expecting a baby with her new partner, it was as if life had handed her a second sunrise. But somewhere in the shadows, her past refused to let go. Jamertai Brown's obsession grew like a wildfire, consuming, irrational, and deadly. He called, he texted, he begged. And when begging didn't work, he threatened.
Still, Montanae Davis, 26, stood her ground. She wasn't the same woman he once controlled. But that defiance, that strength, was exactly what his fragile ego couldn't bear. In the stillness of that April night, while her children slept, fear came knocking. The pounding on the door wasn't just a sound, it was a warning. Her trembling hands reached for her phone. "He's here. Please hurry. He has a gun." The dispatcher tried to keep her talking, but then there was a loud crack. Then another. Then silence. By the time police arrived at the home on Torrington Place, tragedy had already sealed its mark. Montanae Davis, 26, lay on the floor, lifeless, her spirit stolen in front of the children she had fought so hard to protect. It was irony at its cruelest. The woman who had spent her life saving others could not be saved herself. The next day, the city of Dayton awoke to the news of another young mother gone too soon. Her family's grief echoed through every corner of the neighborhood. Her mother, Melissa Dennis, wept as she spoke to reporters. "Every morning, she'd call me at 6. We'd go to breakfast. Now I'll never get that call again." Her sister, Autumn, promised to raise Montanae Davis's children as her own, her voice trembling as she released balloons into the gray sky, each one carrying a piece of her heart. Friends and strangers alike gathered to honor her, their tears glinting under the setting sun like shattered glass. And as the balloons drifted upward, a cruel irony lingered. The world kept moving, but for Montanae Davis's family, time had stopped. The man who once claimed to love her, the same man she feared, was found and arrested the next day. He had tried to hide the murder weapon, wrapping it in a child's t-shirt, as if innocence could disguise guilt. He now faced multiple charges, including aggravated murder and attempted murder. But even with justice underway, nothing could undo what had been done. Nothing could fill the silence where Montanae Davis's laughter once lived. Montanae Davis's story is more than a tragedy. It's a warning. A reminder that love should never come with fear. That leaving should never lead to dying. That women like Montanae Davis, brave, kind, full of life, deserve to grow old, not become statistics. As her community mourned, one question lingered like smoke after a fire. How many more? In loving memory of Montanae Davis, 26. A daughter, a mother, a nurse. A light extinguished too soon, but one whose warmth continues to glow in the hearts of those she touched.